You are now tuned into the sounds of Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
Take it away, feeling too good to me. Chilling all day, all in your space is where I wanna be. Here in this room, what did you do? I just can't get enough. Too caught up in your love. I've been trying to forget, but you won't let me. Something in my brain wants you. I've been hanging by myself, asking for help, but nothing seems to work on you. Yeah, you always make me feel like home. Yeah, you never leave my thoughts alone. Yeah, you're the reason I'm going out of my mind. I just can't stop thinking about you.
Tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nathan Snell.
And as always, thank you, Mr. Anthony Handy, for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host, Nathan Snell, the Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. This is episode number 403. This episode concludes our series of One Mind, One Goal. It is just me writing solo. But before we get to that, there's a few things I want to say up front. I don't know if you saw, but the University of Maryland Terrapins football team upset USC over the weekend for homecoming. And then the Commanders demolished the Carolina Panthers. That was something. And then the Baltimore Ravens defeated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with felt like a 3-point win, but just be tuned in for those recaps. Coming down the pipe, my WNBA 1.0 mock draft will go live on YouTube. How that recorded for YouTube, and you can also find it on TeamNBSMedia. So stay tuned in for that. This has been an interesting season, but congratulations to the New York Liberty, as it's their first title in 28 years. I knew they were going to win the championship. First and foremost, let me back a little bit. My concerns for them, I had picked Connecticut and Vegas initially, but seeing some of the issues, especially with Vegas, Vegas didn't really have the team, I think, to repeat, especially a bench production. Connecticut, the same thing. Really, the biggest thing with Connecticut, we'll talk about them in a little bit, is outside of Marina Mabry, they're kind of a one-dimensional offense at times, and it kind of got stale. But New York, I think, had all the pieces that you needed to compete for a championship. I think they did all the right things, and it's well deserved. Sabrina Ionescu, for example, should have been made all first team, all WNBA, all first team. Congratulations to Stewie, another ring for her. More importantly, congratulations to John Paul Jones. She went to Riverdale Baptist. She's from DMV, went to George Washington. I think from just where her growth in since her time being the W, from 6th Woman of the Year, MVP, All-Star, Most Improved, and now champion, Finals MVP. You can't really speak. You just speak to, I think, just really keeping your head down and going to work approach. But I really wanted to talk about the game. If I'm being honest, you kind of have to tip your hat off to the Minnesota Lynx. That's a damn good team over there. I'm not going to lie. Game 5 was very, very interesting to watch. I'm not taking shots. I'm just being honest with what I saw. That was some of the most, at times, awful basketball to watch. You cannot defend Sabrina Ionescu shooting 1 of 19. That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. I can't defend that. What do you want me to say to that?
Let me say this. Sabrina, I think, has the tools to be a great player in this league. And they've tried to build this thing around her to try to boost her stardom up. And when the light shined the brightest, she kind of sold her team. Now I'm not being ignorant. I'm just calling what it is. I mean, look at the shots that she took. There was, some of those were air balls, and then there was one where she took a fadeaway three. I mean, there's no way a coach on that bench, Sandy, doesn't matter. That is a choice. You shooting 1 of 19. Stewie. I mean, I don't think this game affects her legacy, but you missed 2 free throws. That can't happen. I mean, when you look at both those two combined, Stewie and Sabrina, 5 of 34.
I can't defend that. What do you want me to say to that?
He didn't even try.
So, I think probably the only one I felt like that was more consistent was Niara Sabli. She, when her number was out there, she did everything that was asked of her. I think their length, I was questioning with some of the lineups that Sandy had put out there. But there was definitely something we've never seen before. But I think to have her in the lineup, then that kind of messed up Minnesota's rotations. But also to Minnesota, respectfully, they didn't have really a lot of options on their bench. Outside of Natisha Heidemann, she had a kind of a crucial turnover in the game. Courtney Williams, I think, had really nothing left to give. I think she gave her everything in Game 4 to force the Game 5. But Minnesota doesn't have a Kayla Thornton. They don't have a Kennedy Burke. They don't have a Thevich. They don't have that. Diamond Miller, Alyssa Peely, Dorka. I mean, they're good players, but I mean, Dorka got in the game for a little bit and replaced with Alana Smith, but there really wasn't no one else you could go to on the bench. The foul calling, the last 90 seconds of the game is all you need to know how the officiating was. Now I've been consistent on that point with officiating. I'm not going to regurgitate that. I do have a problem with both coaches. Like Sandy came out in Game 4 and said something. Game 3, because Game 4, if we're being honest, New York had a chance to close that out, and they didn't. But I mean, Game 5, there were some extremely questionable calls. The most flagrant one was Stewie traveled, on that possession where Alana Smith was called for a foul. That was not a foul. I don't know where you saw a foul. That was weird. They got to the free throw line more than Minnesota. So, that was interesting. But other than that, I mean, I think just speaks to how good of a coach Cheryl is. Also, I give Alina Smith give her flowers to play through injury the way she did. Her role in that lineup it needs to be respected more, and that was a great acquisition for them. I actually predict she's gonna make an All-Star team next year. I'm gonna guarantee that. Guarantee. Yeah, and then what else? Oh, I kind of have a bone to pick with Cheryl Reese. I don't, in terms of some of the comments she made in the post presser, she was definitely pissed. Most definitely had every right to be. But you at one point were the general manager for the Minnesota Lynx. You've had ample opportunity to. You've had, as a GM, you've had the opportunity to put a team together. She took shots at Vegas and New York for building the super team. Let me explain to you the difference. Okay. Vegas drafted Kelsey Plum, Asia Wilson, Jackie Young. Those are the three draft picks. You signed Chelsea Gray. The goal is to build around one or two more players. Example in Seattle, you have Jewel Lloyd. What do? You sign Skylar. Well, you have Jewel Lloyd and Ezzie McNamara. You sign Skylar, Nakagumake. In New York, the really person that's really, I think, the backbone to the success of Liberty is Benaj Laney. She was the first piece to what this is now. They tried to build around Sabrina, and that didn't really work. But you got JJ, where I got a Stewie. That's called building a team. When I've seen the Minnesota Lynx, respectfully, you haven't done that. You have not put a true center next to Fee. Your best, you chose to overpay Ariel Powers and Natalie Achonwa. And how did those work out for you?
I can't defend that. What do you want me to say to that?
I'm not taking a shot at Ariel Powers. She got a championship with the Washington Mystics. Natalie Achonwa was a good player. But for what they were paid for, they did not live up to expectations. So you have some wrongs to make right in the offseason. So I'm going to see what she's going to do. But I do expect that Minnesota team to look a little different next year. I feel bad for Diamond. She was in the starting rotation at one point, and then she got hurt. I just don't see her there next year. I actually kind of see them moving off her via a trade or the expansion draft. So, but that's enough talk. Congratulations to the New York Liberty. Got a couple other teams that joined the vacation train. We're going to start with the Las Vegas Aces. The chance to three-peat came to a disappointing end, losing to the New York Liberty. I really think this year, how can I say this? I don't want to say the team wasn't bought in. I just think that from what you had last year, I would say for the first championship run, from the first one to the second one, you did not build on that. You kind of gotten stale. I think at times they struggled to be consistent. We can all talk about the championship hangover. I don't think that's a real thing, in my opinion. They didn't have Chelsea Gray for the beginning of the season. She missed the first month with a foot injury, and she really wasn't really 100%. Asia Wilson had, first 1,000-point scorer, MVP. She practically carried that team. Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum, if you look at, they were all-stars, but they did not have a Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum-like season. The question now becomes, you've got to put a 5 next to Asia with size. I've seen Kia Stokes at Connecticut. I think her game, can still evolutionize and grow. But for Vegas' system, it's time to move on. Respectfully, that's being honest. There were times, if you watch that series, where they're doubling Asia because they know she's not going to score. That's their biggest thing they're going to have to do. Well, Asia Wilson and Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray are all signed. Now, Kelsey Plum was due for an extension. She is an unrestricted free agent this season. The only thing is they could core her, if I'm remembering that correctly. Alicia Clark is also a free agent. Tiffany Hayes, who came out of retirement, who won 6th Woman of the Year. Congratulations, Tiffany. Sydney Colston, we all know that she's going to resign with them. And Queen Egbo. So I think the really biggest thing is this what they're going to do with Kelsey. Do you retain her, and what you're playing going forward? I think they need to target Natasha Howard. I think she'd be a good fit in Vegas. I could even see well, they got Elizabeth Kitley, but I don't know how she would fit in that system. It's gonna be an interesting offseason for Vegas, but we'll definitely see. But the next team, thankfully, the Connecticut Sun. I thought this was a good year for them. Disappointing how it ended. They finished 28-12. This year, I felt like the roster at this point this year, and I said this before in the video with Brendan Potts. Shout out to Brendan. This roster had peaked. I think they were one big piece away from taking the roster from here to here. And they got the Marina Mabrey. And they did everything right. I mean, they finished 500 to the regular season, those last 8 games. And then you just no answers. So I really do think that there are some bright spots. Dejanay Carrington got most improved player. Alyssa Thomas, she now has 15 career triple doubles. I mean, the numbers, you look at the stats, they kind of did, but the fact that a player of her caliber can do that, that just speaks to the greatness of her. DeWanna Bonner is the glue of that team, but I really think you're going to see a different Connecticut Sun team next year. Outside of Marina Mabrey, you really have some tough questions. Some questions that have answers. Alyssa Thomas, Brianna Jones, DeWanna, Tiffany Mitchell, As2, Nardo Fall, Dejanay Carrington, Caitlin Brickell, and Veronica Burton are all free agents. Veronica is reserved and Caitlin's reserved. Dejanay is restricted. Everybody else, DeWanna, As2, Tiffany, Brianna, Alyssa, they're unrestricted. And seeing that, again, going into next year, it's kind of going to be something to watch, because I don't think you can bring all of them back unless somebody is willing, unless we're all willing to take pay cuts. But I can't see any of them somewhere else. Dejanay is due for a pay. So DeWanna says she's not retiring. So, and then Brianna Jones, look, you got to give her flowers, especially coming off of tearing her Achilles last year, and doing everything they asked of her to do. That just speaks to the level of greatness that she has. And I actually could see her potentially I could actually see her coming to the Mystics. I think that would be an interesting signing for the Mystics if that were to happen. But I see them. I kind of see them blowing it up. But again, with now some news that we'll share, and then kind of going into an unknown 2025, 2026 with the expansion, that definitely puts a damper on things. Now, they do have the 22nd, 23rd, and 33rd overall selections. Your first round pick was traded to Chicago and getting Marina. Don't like that, but it is what it is. I think they need to really look for somebody that can stretch the floor. They need another score on the perimeter. Like if you're going to have AT as your ball handler, you got to give her some space. You got Bree Jones and both in the paint. That's going to be a problem. You got to have someone that can stretch the floor for AT, and DeWanna Bonner and Marina get shots going. So I'm curious to see, but I don't know. Connecticut's tough. I think to run it back one more year, and you got to cut corners if you're trying to run it back one more year, I don't know if that's a good look. I really don't. That's going to be interesting to watch. Oh, I forgot to also mention, the Las Vegas Aces do not have a first round pick because of the Erica Hamby investigation, but they do have 2 second round picks. They have the 14th, 20 overall, and they have a third round pick. So forgot to mention that. And then the Minnesota Lynx, the runner ups for the WNBA Finals. It was a good season for them. They won 30 games. They maintain all their picks. Maisha Hines-Allen, Natisha Heidemann, Cecilia, I cannot pronounce it, Sanrajsi, Olivia Upapa. I apologize if I mispronounced those names. I'm sorry. And then Jessica Shepard, but her contract is expired. Her contract was suspended this year. I really think they probably, from where they were last year, I believe they were 6th last year. To get to the finals this year, I think a lot of it was the offseason, getting Alana Smith from Chicago. Bridget Carlton having an upgrade. I think Courtney Williams, I think Minnesota was a good fit for her. I think she did all the right things. When Natisha left, she was traded to Minnesota. She brought some versatility. They also brought, some shooting. From Levy Game Improvement from the year before, that's one of the best seasons I've seen. Nafisa Collier, who was definitely in the MVP conversation. I think I'm gonna call it right now. Next year, Nafisa Collier will be your 2025 WNBA MVP.
Guaranteed.
I think if it wasn't for Asia Wilson's 1,000 point season and just I think the year she had, we would say Fee is the MVP. But also, too, respectfully, we can agree, disagree, but sending emails to the league about stats doesn't help plead the case. But that's okay. But yeah, outside of the group, outside of this team, most of this group is signed next year. The only thing that I noticed is to beat a team like New York, you're going to have to improve your bench. I feel like what they have to contribute, again, Diamond Miller, if she can stay healthy, Lissa Peely, and both of them, there's always room for improvement. But Cheryl said in her extra interview, there's going to be some changes. So I'm kind of a little concerned how that's going to look. I definitely think they have everything that they have. I don't think this was their ceiling. I think next year would be. So I'm really curious to see, but they definitely need the bulk up a little bit. I agree with this sentiment. They need to put a 5 around next to Fee. Since Syl Fowles left, they failed to have done that, and I don't know why. But you had the chance to get Camila Cardoso, and you didn't do that. So it's gonna be interesting to see what they do in the off season. But I would have to imagine that this would be it. I think you're going to see some changes with Minnesota, not major changes, but enough to where I think their ceiling is a little bit more higher next year. So, but with that being said, also this was announced today that the Player Association for the WNBA has opted out. I called it. I've been saying this since last year that this was bound to happen. The Players Association Union announced it yesterday, which was Monday, that they're opting out. This was coming off the New York Liberty winning the finals. But again, since they did it in 2018 for their CBA, which got them the one that they had in January 2020. But the biggest thing when you look at this, the reason why you're looking at July, they got 11-year media deal with Disney, Amazon Prime, NBC. The league is growing. And when you look at also I think their value, the overall media deals, I think it was like close to $3 billion. So I think this is their moment. This is the opportune time. I think that they really have everything they want. From my understanding, with reading it, the biggest thing was charter flights, which was all teams had use going into this season, but it was rolled in as season progressed. The support for the players with children, example, Scott Dickens-Smith, who was locked out of Phoenix facilities last year, Cheyenne Parker from the Atlanta Dream, and also to the importance of having practice facilities. The Connecticut Sun, which is owned by Mohegan, the ladies had to share a basketball court with somebody that was having a birthday party. That can't happen. I feel like if you to attract free agents, you got to have practice facilities and different things like that. And if you can accommodate those things for players, you're not going to get too many people to sign for you. So I think that there's a lot there. Salary wise, I think that's only a much of it. But I mean, I think also that the ladies want to see more of what they just want, what they've worked for. Example, Kelsey Plum mentioned this on an interview. They don't get revenue for jersey sales when they put on 2K and those different things like that. Which they also talked about the transitioning of the current system, which is like arbitrary restrictive caps. Basically, the economic model is going to change. That was something interesting to see. And then also, the biggest thing was prioritization. That's going to be interesting to see what happens because there was a set of rules. I think if it was sort of last year, you were fined. If it's not this year, it's next year. Might have been this year. If you missed a certain day by training camp, might have been next year actually. You would have been suspended without pay. So I'm curious to see if those restrictions will be loosened. Increasing salaries will help. I don't think there'll be a work stoppage. I think they'll have a deal. They have a year to agree to this. And on top of that too, you'll have 16 teams by 2028. So you need to make a move. You need to come to an agreement now. So I think right now, the ladies are in a great space where the league's growing. There's more eyes on it. My only thing is I'd advocate is that know that you are collectively in agreement with everything. I'm just keeping it real with this 2020 CBA. I don't think that was read properly, and when I say that, I don't think there was a lot of language. The language in the CBA was extremely questionable with certain things. So that's another thing too. Going into free agency, that's going to be interesting. If you haven't signed a long-term contract past 2025, 2026, with the teams in Toronto, Golden State next year, then Toronto and Portland, that should be interesting. But this was coming. I wasn't surprised. I'm actually surprised they did it soon. I thought they did it sooner than I thought. I think they had until this November to opt out of it. But they got 1 year to get everything agreed to. But outside of that, I'm not surprised. So I know what they're going to do. They just got to make sure they fight for everything at the table, and they keep it pushing. So, when you have players like Gabby Williams as an example, she talked about I think when she made the comment of the 700,000, this is just my opinion. I think that would have been made up in terms of incentives. That's how I read it in their CBA. I could be wrong. Please leave your comments below. But there's they definitely have to advocate, and they have to fight for what they want at the table. I use example. I did a video 4 years ago. It was about political organization. You group A, group B, group C, going to a certain person. These are, a political agenda. These are the things that we want. If you can't meet these things, we're not voting for you. Candidate B, C, D, same thing. When you're at the table, you have to know what you're fighting for. So I'm actually interested to really see how that'll look. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to have one final thought.
Thoughts are running through my mind, so I took some time to find a minute or two to organize.
One final thought. I would like to thank the Washington Mystics, the Connecticut Sun, and the Las Vegas Aces for allowing me another year to cover their teams respectfully. I'd like to send them thank you emails. I'm looking forward to next year. I'm actually glad the season's over. This season was draining. I think it was kind of hard to keep up with the games, especially in an Olympic year. 3 games in 5 days, and a couple times it was back-to-back. So I know the Mystics had 2 games back-to-back with the Dallas Wings, Saturday and Sunday. So that was definitely something. But it just, I don't know. I think also too, the climate coming into the league with the new fans, and I think seeing some of the racism that some of the ladies experienced. I think that also kind of drains you a little bit. So I'm actually kind of glad. I'm glad that the season's over, because I think this is a time where everybody can go outside, touch some grass, and this should be something. But outside of that, it was a great season. I'm looking forward to 2025. So I think again, the Washington Mystics and the Connecticut Sun and Las Vegas Aces would like to run it back again next year. And thank you for all your support you've given me and this channel. This was fun. And in 2 weeks, Maryland women's basketball will be back on the podcast. And did an interview with Cheyenne Sellers. Shout out to her. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for a great interview. I'll have that posted up sometime later tonight. Other than that, that's going to conclude this series of another season of One Mind, One Goal. Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. Please like, comment, and subscribe for all future content. Be sure to tune in for future episodes. Stay tuned for the Baltimore Ravens, Commanders, and Maryland football recaps. Until then, I'm out. Peace. Stay up.
But they don't know, they don't know, they don't know. Nobody knows but us how we roll, how we roll. Nobody knows what we got but us.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you for everything you do.